Hello all, welcome to my session. Uh, I must thanks to the regional Scrum Gathering committee and team members to give me this opportunity to express my thoughts, and thank you so much to all of you to choose my session. So with that, let us start the conversation. So let me share my stuff. Okay, I hope it is visible. Let us start this journey. Today, we are going to talk about the Teal organization. So my topic is a journey. So I'm going to talk about this journey which I have been observing by working with many organizations. For last 1 decade, I have been working with many large organizations and be a part of the large-scale business transformation program. So I have been seeing the maturity of the organizations, like how organizations is becoming mature and able to really serve the customers and be relevant into the market. So related to that, I would like to talk. So the topic is a journey towards the Teal organization by being agile. So stay firm and be with me and let us deep dive into this topic. So before that, I would like to really touch upon how I have really get into all those things. So I have been fortunate to really work on large product development. So started with the G medical system. What we're seeing here is it's called patient monitoring system, and initial days of my career, I could able to really part with this product development. It was actually embedded software, and any hospital today, you will be able to see this kind of product. It measures the vital parameter of the patients, and it gives the indication to the nurse, doctors about the vital indicator of any patient. So it goes inside your body and then it shows this how well your body is functioning, and based on that doctors take the action. So it's a very complex device you are seeing here, and it really interacts with the many sensors to really bring out this vital information so that the doctor can take the corrective action for the patient. So I'm very much fortunate to really work with many good architects based out in Finland, and that gives me immense opportunity to really talk about the complex system. um, I would like to really touch upon my next venture. Like I joined Honeywell Aerospace System. Whatever you are seeing here, this is one of the large complex systems which helps the pilot to really maneuver the large aircrafts. I worked with Airbus A380, Dreamliner 787. So what you are seeing here, it's called enhanced ground proximity warning system. So it helps the pilot to tell like if there is any obstacle coming and if what pilot should do. So it also hundreds of sensors actually give the information to really build this algorithm and shows the pilot to really take what corrective action is needed. And it's a mandatory system in the cockpit. Like every aircraft will have this system equipped, and it helps the pilots to really take corrective action whenever such kind of turbulence comes. So, and also when I worked with the Airbus A380 program, like there are many subsystems with whom we worked on, and all those interconnected subsystems are continuously talking to each other to really come out with this complex information. Whatever you are seeing is a very simple system apparently, but inside it's a very large complex interactive systems through which we can able to see this visual image and help the customer to really take up the corrective action. So after that I joined the ABB industrial automation system. So what you are seeing here, it's one of the display system for a power grids. So in today's modern world, the entire system is completely automated, especially in the developed country. The entire power flow has been monitored through a control system, and through this thanks to the technological innovation, like from this room you can really see how much power flow is happening, which segment of the city, where are the faults lying, where should I send my the people to really correct those flaw in the system. So the large the city is, the more complex the system is, but everything is automated, like irrespective of the environmental situation. Like it may be snowing outside, it may be rainy day outside, but this system will constantly guide the control rooms people to really move forward and really take the corrective action. So that also really helped me to really work with many team members, understand the software process and how the complex systems can be built. So I'm fortunate to be really part of this kind of the complex product development. And what you are seeing here, this is the one of the US power grid control room, and it's very complex to really for individuals to really manually operate this particular situation. So something to really look upon, like how such a complex systems can be built. Of course, human intelligence and human interaction, and of course, organizational readiness. So many aspects is needed, and all those learnings I have been really capturing it into blogs. The various steps of blogs I write, and I do not want to really forget all those memories. So I really keep capturing all those things, and these are the volumes of the compilation which I have been really created and helping, or basically spreading this information to the community consumption. So that's how I actually keep working with the many complex program, and I'm curious to really work with many such complex program to really know more about such a complex product development. So let us jump into this today's topic. Such a complex product to build, you need ecosystem like which can really enable this kind of program development to happen, this kind of complex product development to happen. So it's quite interesting, like as a leader, as a business transformation change agent, we need to really understand the ecosystem, like how well these ecosystems are enabling us to really build such a product. So that's the interesting things to really look upon. 2014, Frederick Laloux has written this book, Reinventing the Organization. And after several years of research, he has really observed the organization readiness and organizations where this kind of good products are built, and like what are the components is really required to really traverse this journey, because it's a journey. Like on a day one, we can't really think about like such a readiness from the organization side. So he mentioned in his book like some of the great companies he has observed, like he mentioned like Southwest Airline and Berserk is some of the companies like which are exhibiting the greatness of organization. Like those organizations are the great organizations to be. They are serving their customer, they are serving their long-term customers, and Morningstar is also one of them. So there are many organizations he mentioned from his research. He observed how the great organizations really create a space where great products can flourish. So this is something interesting to really touch upon. And 2020, I wrote an article about this particular topic. This is about being agile to Teal organization, and I could see the commonality among all those organizations. Like when you worked on this building a agile mindset, when you worked on the being agile attributes to be really built, I could also observe like similar types of traits in the Teal organization. Like when Frederick Laloux highlighted those Teal attributes, like I could see that yes, if we are aspiring to become a being agile, it is equivalent like we are also aspiring to be the Teal organization. So that's how I thought of like, okay, highlighting. So being agile is something like how can we become better? How can we become more customer centricity? How can we constantly innovate ourselves to really reach to that state? Like 4 values and 12 principles, if we can really follow through it, all the organization, the whole setup, when we rigorously or religiously really follow through it, it will elevate ourselves into that state. And that's a journey which we all organizations are traversing in. And as agile coach or as a change agent, we are constantly observing that elements, like how organizations are constantly reinventing themselves to stay relevant into this situation. And that's what is actually being agile, which is actually taking us to that level. And when you really closely, I'm sure all of you have been really working on these particular aspects. It's not the ritual, it's not that formula, it's not that cut and paste. It's all about like continuously figuring it out in our context, what really works. So it's about like bringing out the new ways of working, bringing out the new aspects of really serving our customer in a different way on a daily basis. So that's all is the towards their journeys, like from this ritual and structural and following certain discipline to that like free movement, like where it's not so free but still disciplined way of really developing certain things. So that's all about like going to that state of innovation is being agile mindset. So it's actually that journey what you are going on. So in Frederick Laloux's book also, he also talked about these aspects, the different color he attributed, like how from a legacy organization which is as operating into a main in a very traditional mode, like control environment, which he called it as a red organization, and how gradually that red organization has moved into the ladder of empowerment and giving this freedom, and how those maturity of the individuals can scale these organizations to this next level. So red, orange, and amber, and then green, and then teal. So that's the gradual progression of greatness of organization. And I'm not going to touch upon the teal attributes, but I will just talk about like what I am seeing, like some of the attributes which is actually making the organizations to be a robust, resilient, and really relevant into the organization, into this business, especially in today's fast-paced world. So if we really observe, if we really deep dive into these attributes of this organization, it's all about like how we as a human being can find a purpose into this organization, and how organization also can enable that purpose to happen. So that's the crux of these things. Like when you talk about this mindset, when you talk about this individual, and when you see the collective individual's aspiration, and then building that products for our customers. So that's something what everybody is actually working on. So in my talk, I would like to really touch upon all those aspects, but looking at the time constraint, like it needed a long research on this particular thing. So just some of the analogy, just to really bring in some kind of a dimension. Look into this electric pole. So what reminds us, like what it tells about this electric pole? Think about like you are the electrician who would like to really correct some of the fault in the system. Where should you touch? How should you touch? What manual you should really work upon? So whenever you look into such a system, you will be seeing that like is it really enabling, like how easy when you operate in such kind of setup? So this is something really looked upon. Now modernizing those systems, of course it's a legacy, it's a like a decades of old system, and it's working fine somewhere, but whenever things are not working, then you need to really look upon it. So from this overlaying this cable, like putting everything under the ground and ensure that everything is operating correctly, is a kind of a DNA change for some city, for some town, which are very old setup. And look at this kind of setup, like when you have modernized the system, everything is under the ground, but things are working fine. So it's a transformation. Like it's a transformation. It takes multi years of planning, and the kind of people and the infrastructure and is needed is actually a massive thinking process. So you see the gradual progression from where and how we can reach to that state. Same way, like think about this. It's not just some fix in the pockets. It's actually a major overhaul, like where you are trying to really uh, alter the whole setup, trying to change the whole system. So structure, process, people, technology, every elements need to be modernized to really build a modern car. It's not just the certain part that you are just replacing. It's the end-to-end system, and it has to be really inside out. It cannot be like a show it off. Like think about the six pack. When you build a six pack, when you try to create six pack, it's not just a momentary things. It's a gradual progression, and it's a transformation in a holistic system. It's not just the display. It's the whole body is transforming, whole mindset is transforming. So it's also another DNA change, I will say. Thinking process is changing, our approach, our attitude, everything is changing. So when you reach to that state of teal, where you are exhibiting that highest level of transformation, where it really changed and really offer a better service. So that's actually a evolutionary change to us. So we would like to talk about this particular thing. Like this gradual transformation is a massive system transformation for a organization setup. So that is something to really looked upon. So I would like to really correlate this with a Marvel movie. Like nowadays, everybody watches this Marvel movie. Think about the times of the villains are in Marvel movie. How much bottleneck they create for the heroes. So and we need to overcome those bottlenecks. We need to really deal with these hurdles. Um, so these villains are not bad, but they are actually challenging our current systems. They are actually challenging, like, is this good setup? Is there anything need to alter? And in the transformation journey, like when you are dealing with these villains or these challenges, these kind of obstacles, then you are overcoming and getting into a better redefined version of yourself. And every organization is actually rediscovering themselves. Organizations are no more machines. It's not just a solid structure. It is actually constantly re-engineering themselves to really stay relevant. And every individuals into the organization, different role they are playing, they're constantly trying to see that like, what should I do differently? How do I cooperate? How do I collaborate with my people so that I can reinvent myself? So that's how the Teal organization team. So something to really look upon, something to really think upon, like how organizations are constantly redesigning themselves to really stay relevant. So I would like to touch upon some of the aspect or some of the story. So these hurdles or this kind of bottlenecks, this kind of constraint will be always there in every system. Be it a Thanos, be it other stories. This will be always there. So what are we doing differently as a change agent is actually identifying those bottlenecks, and we are operating in a setup. You're operating in a setup where actually all those constraints will come evolve with, and this will be like a monster which is actually popping up their tentacles and always challenge us. So think about a system like. A kind of hypothetical system like so Maria is a product manager, and Maria is trying to build a product, and she has her team. They are our Marvel team. Kelly is the scrum master, supposed to be the scrum master, and Jim is the agile coach, and Thanos is our customer. Think about the situation, and we need to really operate, and I'm sure most of us are operating in this kind of setup, and this is where we are. This is where we are this is where we are makes the more challenging part, like how do we help now this team. And of course there will be different types of villains in the system. And now what are they doing? Actually they are trying to modernize the complete healthcare system. They are trying to build a new generation healthcare system where they are applying the complete digital setup, like the cloud, the big data, artificial intelligence, and the microservice. Whatever you tell, all the technology things are there to really build a modern setup through which they can really reach to the customer, satisfy the customer, ensure that business continuities are there. So, but this is a really complex setup, the multi-year complex setup. Now, Maria need to really deal with these things. So there are many elements. So I'd like to touch upon like when we get into this kind of organization setup, organization could be red according to the Frederick Lalo's model. It could be red, it could be amber, it could be orange setup, or it could be green setup. Really, please look into those aspects, like what are the different types of hurdles. So assuming Maria is operating in the amber setup or maybe orange setup, and she has to move into this green, maybe in a teal setup. So that's a really massive challenge. So whenever you are operating, when all of us are operating in this kind of hurdles, so I am just indicating them with the name of a orange or amber attributes. So I would just to talk about, like, all of us are operating in the digital setup. We need to really overcome those challenges. So we need to move into green or teal into this setup. So what are those attributes? How can you reach to this green or teal setup? So either we are building a rocket, either we are building a next generation um, power grid system, which is actually a green power grid setup, like it's a completely renewable, running with a renewable battery setup, or you are developing a next generation vaccine. So to develop such kind of a really innovative product, your setup has to be really helped you to really success. So it has to be green or teal, because the red or orange or amber setup will give a lot of hurdles. And more and more, if you see today's investments are more into digital space. Like most of the organizations you see is actually getting into this digital mode, like because the more digital technology you use, it's much more easy to really help the customer. The product building timeline is actually minimizing. And technology is really empowering the people to really reach to the customer and really help the customer. So everywhere you touch upon, it's the digital. Everywhere you see the upcoming investments are happening in the digital space. So digital space is all about the cloud, big data, and then IoT and data lake, microservice. So these are the enablers, but it's not easy to deploy it easily. So for Maria, it's not easy, or Maria and her team, it will not be a smooth work to really deploy this kind of modern system. It will go through the hurdles. So what are those hurdles? We'd like to really highlight some of these hurdles, which I would say that, like, from doing agile to the being agile. Doing agile will help us to overcome some of these hurdles, but being agile, when we build that system, like when we modernize, it would be really interesting journey. So what are those things? So I would like to really touch upon some of these aspects which are actually hurdles or blockers. So most of the digital program are failing, um, and why they are failing, and of course people who are successful in the digital program, they have really overhauled the complete system, really modernized some of their process, people, and technology, all those aspects. So what are they working on? So these are some of the building blocks, the structural challenges, the team structure, organization structure. The structure, something which need to be looked upon. The people challenges, people competency, people thought process, and people readiness. People are the major elements. Technology element, how what technology we are using. So the technology adoption is also one of the aspects. And the process, are those process are legacy process or the modern process? Are those process are enabling? And then strategy around that, like are you continuously renovating around our strategy? So strategy has to really tightly bound all these elements together. And the foundation is leadership and culture. The leadership readiness, the cultural readiness, these are the actually the major foundation, like that will take us to from a doing agile to the being agile, from a red organization to the teal organization. In between, everything is a transformation journey, and to this transformation journey, to make it happen, all those are the pillars, all those are the elements which we need to overcome through various aspects. So in this block, I would like to really touch upon the blockers, the villains of our marble. So uh, some of the villains is the legacy system. Seriously, we need to really look upon the current system, architectural wise or the organization wise. So legacy system is the biggest building blocks, biggest bottleneck. So really looked upon this legacy system and try to see that how can we modernize some of this legacy system. Some of the elements are there. Either are going to buy the solution or build the solution. Completely different approach, or we are could be hybrid. Whenever you choose it, we need to really consciously decide, like, okay, what are the elements we need to really adopt in our setup. So that's a very important things. They create a lot of bottlenecks. Either if you buy it or build it, that particular things really significantly cause a lot of problem. um, um, I would like to really touch upon is this whole things what we are talking about is actually slippery path in our transformation journey. Like everywhere I am saying, this is a journey map, and really careful about the slippery path. These are the slippery path. We need to be really watch out these particular aspects. Whatever I am right now touching out in this particular block is actually can potentially cause accident if you are not careful, because you are walking into this slippery path, into this snowy area. So be careful about these aspects. So first thing is these external factors, because we are living in the system which is constantly influenced by the external elements. It could be Russia war, it could be the inflation situation, it could be the rapid technology space changes. So how are you controlling those aspects? We call it as a pestle analysis, but we need to be mindful about these aspects, how the external factors are influencing our internal factors. So if Maria has to be successful into this digital transformation, she has to really watch out about the external entity who is significantly influencing us, and how we should be really formulate our strategy to really ensure all these things, be it a product backlog, be it the marketing backlog, be it the technology backlog. These aspects has to be taken care. So they are potentially blocker. And all of us, especially in a digital systems, is actually operating in a complex adaptive system. And due to the nature of this complex system, it is emergent. So that means it is a non-linear in nature. That means all the leaders has to be really mindful that no formula will work here, no cut and paste solution will work here. So that means we will be actually in experimenting most of the times. If we are not, then we are causing a bottleneck. If we are saying that like there must be a plan, and that must be a long-term plan, then we are not really addressing these complexity elements. If you are not thinking that it's emergent, then that's something that will really change. Um, so the communication and alignment. So when you are building a large system, many parties will be involved. So when many parties will be involved, there will be confusion, there will be chaos, there will be a conflict. A particular formulation, if it is missing, then that could create a potential bottleneck in wrong run. So how well we are communicating, are we aligning or not? So be careful about these particular things, because that's one of the biggest bottleneck. If you consider that people are the cog in the wheel, I can replace them. then you are seriously doing some mistake, because these people are the major foundation of any teal organization or any green organization. If we are not really addressing these aspects, we'll be constantly struggling with this, because in the digital area, the competency and the skill is one of the major thing. And if you do not have that up to the mark, our execution speed will slow down. So that is something really every change agent needs to be watch out. So in the backlog, these elements has to be there, constantly need to be looked upon this. Yeah, that's what I'm just talking about. People and the skill, people and the competency. And the good competency, if you have, you are ahead of the curve, you are ahead of the competition. If you can retain those talented people and really inspire them to really build that particular product, you are ahead of the game. So the skills and competencies is one of the elements. So and I would like to touch upon some of the complexity of the organizations. So how complex that organizations is, how easily organizations can really change their space and really address those complexity. So organization complexity need to be looked upon, need to be worked upon, need to be really addressed. So we call it as a vertical complexity, horizontal complexity, or spatial complexity. So vertical, horizontal, and spatial. So need to really looked upon how it is enabling us to build that product. So Maria and her team are constantly need to really work upon on these particular aspects. Like, is it really bottleneck? Is it really hurdle in our way? Are you able to really quickly decide? Are you able to really quickly move on? Are you really ready to quickly really bring into our customer into on board? So that aspect has to be really looked upon. So when you talk about the complexity, that's how that the silos thinking comes. Like, is there a silos in the organization? Are you not talking? Are you not communicating? Is there anything which is blocking us? So silos organization is very serious aspects to really looked upon. And then hands off, like, are these people are really handing off the work item? So are there is a ego clash? Are there is a departmental clash? Are there is a barrier? So those aspects needs to be removed, those aspects needs to be looked upon. So this is one of the major thing which every organization relook at certain interval. So I could see nowadays, like, modern organizations are constantly restructuring themselves to stay relevant. So every couple of years they are restructuring, relooking, and redesigning their organization setup. So really, that's one of the major bottleneck. If they are not changing it, like, it will slow us down. And in modern speed, cannot afford to really slow down. Leadership, are they sitting on the ivory tower and asking for the status? Are they really not connected to the ground? What's happening in the ground? Are they formulating their strategy without connecting to the ground? Leader do know this. Leader really know that they are not sitting on the ivory tower. They are grounded. And sometimes, because of so many constraint, they sit on the tower. They stay comfort into the tower. They don't really comfortable if someone challenges them. So we do see this kind of attributes. We do see that. Like, so we need to remind our leaders, like, okay, some of the time they need to really come down from the radar, from the ivory tower. They need to be grounded. They need to understand what's happening into the system. So we need to do some kind of things about this. So this is a major hurdle. We need to really do something about it. And box thinking, it's something to do with the organization culture, actually. And we do see that, like, sometimes box thinkings are happening. People are being not empowered. It could be the constraint by the ambient, constraint by the cultural aspects. So what I am telling is actually a kind of a setup problem. Like, in the red or amber or orange organizations are actually constraining themselves due to many reasons. So you can factor into this particular aspect. All those elements can create organizations to be remain in red, orange, or amber. It will not allow you to go into the green or teal organization, because this will drag you down. This will drag you down. So something to really look upon is, how can you redesign our future? Is there any kind of a crystal ball which can tell us what should we do through which we can really redesign our future? So it's really a DNA change. Sometimes for some organization which are operating for long time, decade, they are not relooked into their all setups, process, structure, culture, people, technology space. It need a DNA change. It needed DNA change. So it's a major aspects for Maria to be successful, or especially to create such kind of a complex setup. It need a major changes. So something to really looked upon. So these are the some of the hurdles what I am seeing keep on coming on our way, and it is not allowing us to go to that being agile state. It is not, people are comfortable into this routine, into the structure, into the checklist, into this cut and paste formula, always looking for a formula, always looking for something which has worked, now also it will work. So but in complex adaptive system, that's not happening, that's not going to happen. So what is the way forward? So I do not have a silver bullet. For this Marble team to be successful, they need to constantly ask this question: what is our evolutionary purpose? What is our existence, reason for the existence? How do we redesign ourselves? What are the aspects I should do through which I can constantly reinvent myself and constantly become better? That's the constant endeavor. So for a Maria to be successful and overcome those Marvel villain and really defeat this Marvel villain, they need to do some kind of thing. So some of the things what I am seeing this is really working, I would like to really touch upon, is actually big picture thinking. For such a large complex program to be successful, next gen healthcare system with modernizing the whole things, for a Maria and her team to be really think big, like many aspects are there in the big thinking aspects, they need to be really touched upon. They need to be constantly work on those particular big picture thinking. If you're just localized thinking, if you're just silos thinking, then we are not going to be really develop such kind of a large multi-year program. We'll be wasting a lot of monies, and it will take a lot of time. So someone need to be constantly really coach the team to really look into these big picture aspects. So number one aspect. So what I am telling is actually it will help us to be reach to that being agile set. Like if we do this practice for a long time, it's a journey. It will take maybe multi-years program, and you have to be patient to really do this particular thing. So we need to constantly traverse the journey path to reach to this being agile state, like Teal organization state. So okay, first big picture thinking, then product management strategy. So a solid strategy and constantly really looking at this product management strategy is essential. Like all best products has been built on these particular fundamentals, like injecting the experience into the product, injecting the right technology. What is the right technology need to be defined constantly. Right customer, finding that right customer who is going to buy your product. If someone is not interested, really let go and move on. Right process, and process should not be really bottleneck. We need to constantly reinvent our process. Right marketing stuff. Without marketing, nobody is reaching to you. Nobody knows you exist. And then the foundation is right leadership, right team, and right culture. All this formulation has to be constantly reinvent. That's why this Russian doll, I just put it like a, whenever you think about the Teal organization, it is a constant evolution. It's actually organism which is actually constantly struggling to really stay relevant. It's like a virus. Virus is very intelligent, and that's why they are smart. So every organization are actually like a kind of, it's not a machine, it's a constantly evolving mechanism. So when you constantly think about like how can we constantly reinvent ourselves with focusing all those aspects, then only we'll be successful. So it's actually it's actually, there's no formula, we need to really figure it out. So something what I'm touching here is actually some of the aspects need to be really work on, some of the aspects need to be looked into it. So constantly looking into this shared purpose, like if we are actually dispersed thinking, we need to align them, we need to constantly talk and align them. So build that shared purpose, we need to really find a mechanism to build that shared purpose. And then coaching is the kind of a silver bullet, I could say that, because every individual is a coach, every leader is a coach. So every individual is constantly helping others to really improve their ways of thinking, improve their operating model. So coaching is one of the important aspects, like where sometimes we need to train the people, sometimes we need to mentor the people, sometimes we need to really coach the people. So coaching is really helping the organization to really modernize. There are so many things, it could be process, technology, structure, so many things. Coaching is very powerful. In modern days, when we have many teams involved to really build a solution, you need to really touch upon these particular areas. How do you collaborate? How do you clash those creative spark to happen? So really modern, so many technology are there to really help this to happen. So we as a facilitator, we constantly create this kind of thing. It's like we need to find a way to really engage these people, enable these people to really talk. So the open space technologies is something like through which we really solve many complex problems. We really solve something people do not want to talk openly, people really do not know how to really talk. So we bring them into the room, we encourage them to really clash the ideas, and this is a constructive debate, I would say. So we need to be innovative in these aspects, like okay, how well we can really that creative clash to happen. So this is something to really look upon. Collaboration, something about the structure. those structures. Like if it is a lot of hierarchies, lot of monolithic organizations, really break it, and constantly really reinvent. So flat organizations, like creating a squad and then really ensure these squads are really talking, collaborating in, and really debating. That need to happen. So constant coaching can really help these particular aspects. And engagement culture, like liberating structure, is really has done a great job in this particular area. In these principles, they talk about like how can we ensure people talk, how can you ensure people bring out the next brilliant ideas, how can you break some of the monolithic way of running the meetings, how can you ensure people feel safe when they challenge each other. So this kind of principles really help facilitator to really bring out the innovative solutions, because in the complex hierarchy system, it need to be really bring out constant innovative solutions and really test those hypotheses. So very important. So most of the time you see this, I'm talking about the clashing of the people, convergence, and then communication, and of course visualizing things. Like if I can see, I believe. If I can see, I can understand, minimize a lot of conflicts. So applying different visual management tool like a Ovaya board, large wall planning, really helps the people to be on same page, because at the end of the day, this shared purpose creation or this evolutionary purpose creation is a constant communication from the corporate or from the different leadership parts. Like they need to constantly tell that where we are heading, why are we heading, and how we will get the benefit when you are heading to that direction. So very important, showing them, talking to them, and then really collecting the feedback and constantly re-engineering the whole aspects is the essential element, because teal organization is a journey, and Maria and her team, if they have to beat those Marvel villains, they need to constantly really reformulate their strategy, the game strategy, the winning strategy, the battle strategy need to be reformulated and reinvent themselves. So there is nothing fixed. So that's the mindset, that's the attitude we need to really think. So for that, we need to really think what is not visible, right? There must be something which is not visible. It is not obvious. It is so dark. That's why it is a complex. So how can I find this dark element? How can I find this which is not visible? So that's something which you really need to think about. So the product discovery workshop really helps us. So we need to constantly ask this question: why are we doing this? And how can I be successful? And what are the outcomes? So in all this product management strategy, what we talked about, leadership, culture, team, experience, we need to constantly ask this question: why are we doing this, and how can it help us? So, and then of course the team is so vital. Team people is so vital. So we need to really look into this aspect. Team is a tree and it has a root. So the context where you are operating, like if you are building a solution for the healthcare product, so healthcare is the context. What works in aerospace will not work in healthcare. So it's very much mindful about the team context. And then team composition, what type of people do you want? Like, do you need a service designer? Do you need a algorithm statistician? Do you need a visual guy? Do you need an artist? Do you need a database engineer? So the composition is the one of the crucial aspects. We need to identify what are those composition. Chemistry, this how well we are interacting with each other, how the multicultural people, team member from the Sweden, team member from the China, team member from the US, how can we gel well? How can we actually talk so that we can feel that one team? So someone has to really work on it. It will not happen naturally. So, and then coaching can really help it, and leadership is create that psychological safe space. So all those element has to be really worked upon. So when we work on this kind of element, of course, the tech landscape is one of the greatest thing. Everyday technology is changing. There are a lot of open space tools are coming, and if we are not using them, we are losing out. Like we are not able to really catch the benefits of the technology. So someone need to really constantly really look into this technology space. Enterprise architects, solution designer need to be really constantly work with the business analyst. So clash of the ideas, and of course what works for me will not work for you and in your context. So we need to really experiment in our context and build this hypothesis. So you see, what I have touched upon is actually a kind of a gradual milestone, and when all of us are working on these things and in the laboratory, nothing happened without outside of the laboratory. In the laboratory, when you experiment with the different types of elements, then only the new formula will come out, and that formula is for us, not for you. You can use this formula, but it will give you a different result. So that need to be really mindful. So when you do this kind of thing, Maria and her team, when she experiments with all those aspects, something new will come out. And then there is a possibility to really beat Thanos. It's not easy to beat Thanos because Thanos is also powerful. This red organization, Amber organization, orange organizations is exist because of some reason. and they are relevant in their own context. But is it relevant into this modern world, like high speed technology changes world? Do we able to really satisfy our customer? This is something really need to be think about. That's how the being agile mindset helps. That's why the Teal organization, green organization helps. And if you read this Frederick Laloux's books, you can really deep dive into the attributes, and how those attributes can be injected into the organization culture is seriously something we need to think upon. So when we apply this in our context, then only this kind of product comes out, where you feel safe to use this product because someone has really diligently built that particular product. And you see this kind of aerospace system, when a pilot, like a fighter aircraft pilot, can peacefully get into this aircraft because someone has really worked upon to really build such a system, which is 99.99% proof that yes, it will take me to the safe space and it will help me during the turbulence, and I'm 100% sure I can use this product safely. So that's all for today. I thought of touching all these aspects to all of you, and this is what I have observed as an agile coach, to build a better product and solution. It's a gradual progression of all these things. So what I touched upon is actually nothing new. I'm assuming you are already experiencing these kind of things, and keep experimenting with these kind of things to really stay relevant into this complex organization, and be a green or teal organization from red. It's a journey. Please traverse this journey and share experience with us. So thank you very much for listening to me. And next time we'll talk some interesting topics. Thank you and goodbye.